Yes, I'd like to ask a couple questions to you as well. You don't need to use your red or green. I'd just like to ask you, how many of you think that our children, America's children, are so stupid and so lazy that they can't learn? How many of you think that? Nobody thinks that? Okay. How many of you believe that the majority of our teachers are so lazy or so incompetent that they can't teach? Nobody believes that. Then how do you account for the fact that more than 2/3 of our students can't score proficiently on these tests? They're deemed not to have learned what they were supposed to learn. How do we account for that? Does it occur to anybody that maybe we should assume that if the kids are trying hard and the teachers are trying hard and they're still not making any progress? I believe it was No Child Left Behind said by the year 2014, all of our children would be proficient in math and science. And we ratcheted up the tests and we ratcheted up the pressure. We failed schools, we failed students, and we haven't made any progress. 2/3 of our students nationally and in Rhode Island still aren't scoring proficiently on these tests. So maybe there's something wrong with the system. I mean, does that ever occur to anybody that maybe there's something wrong with the system? After all, standardized tests are all about accountability. High-stakes standardized tests are all about accountability. You hold the students accountable. If they don't pass the test, they don't graduate. They don't move on to the next grade. You hold the teachers accountable, and now we're going to have an evaluation system postponed for a year because the teachers raised hell that's based on student test scores. So how is it that these kids manage to get into high school without having learned what they need to learn, the basics? How is it that our teachers are being evaluated and found wanting in this? Is it because of the system? Are kids not learning what they should learn? Then who's accountable for that? Who's responsible for that? If it's not the kids and it's not the teachers, and I can't believe it's the parents, even though they're often blamed for all of this, I think it's the system. The politicians are the only ones who aren't held accountable for the condition of our schools. They just keep doubling down. It's going to be tougher. We're going to beat the donkey until it runs faster. We're going to demand more. Standardized tests are immoral and wrong. They don't really accomplish anything. They don't contribute to learning. The rationale for them is that they give us a snapshot of how well the system is doing. Well, I've been in this business now for 25 years, and I can tell you, snapshot or no snapshot, we're not doing very well, and we haven't been doing very well, and there are all kinds of measures that tell us that besides standardized test scores. So I can't understand a single reason why we would spend as much money as we do, as much effort as we do, and cause as much harm as we do with high-stakes standardized tests. If it's only to find out how the system is doing, then that's not a very good trade-off. Now, some people say it helps us find out where the kids are weak and improve our teaching and do a better job with the kids. But that's a lot of baloney, too, because by the time the test scores are in, that class is either graduated or move on to the next grade. I don't think anybody seriously takes these tests, sits down and says, oh, we've got to do a better job teaching that unit in civics or that unit in mathematics. You know, Einstein said, everybody has talent and ability. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll spend the rest of its life thinking it's stupid. There are a lot of fish in our system, not just autistic kids or special education kids, regular kids who just don't want to put up with the requirements of the school. It's a one-size-fits-all system. It's designed to prepare kids to go to college, whether they want to go to college or not. The rhetoric is we're preparing kids for college and work. But that's baloney, too. We're not preparing kids for work, despite the fact these kids are going to spend a third of their lives in job. They graduate from school, and then if they go to college, and half of them manage to get through, they don't have any concept of what the culture of work is, what's expected of them. We don't prepare them for specific jobs. We don't prepare them for work. So I think that we should start a discussion with tests like NECAP by asking ourselves, why are we doing this? What is the purpose of doing all these tests? To find out if the kids are meeting the standards that are designed to reflect college admission standards? Every kid takes so many courses in math, so many courses in science, so many courses in foreign language, all of these things designed to get you into college. If you want to be a construction worker, a carpenter, or you name it, even an accountant, that's too bad. You're going to prepare to go to college. That's great for the 15 or 20% of the kids who are going to go on and get a degree or an advanced degree or a professional degree, become nuclear physicists or rocket scientists. But what about all those other kids? They have to go through the same motions because we have adopted a philosophy in this country of college for all. And we're punishing our children by forcing them into college. 50% of them don't graduate after they enroll in college. The average debt they rack up is $25,000, some as high as $100,000. And most of them who go major in business because they don't know what else to major in, and they go because they've been told the only way they're going to avoid unemployment or working at McDonald's is if they go to college. So I propose we start this discussion in this state and nationally for the first time by demanding to know why we are spending so much money and so much effort and doing so much harm with these high stakes tests. And as was pointed out a minute ago, they're not universally acclaimed. I read just before I came here the memorial address published by the Educational Testing Service on whether test scores are a valid way to evaluate teachers. And this is the Educational Testing Service. And the conclusion was they may have some value, but only under very strict conditions, and done unwisely, they can cause more harm than good. And I think you can say the same thing about tests. Even the inventors of NECAP said it should not be used as a high-stakes test, and yet we do it. And who's held accountable? The students are held accountable, the teachers are held accountable, and the schools are held accountable. But Commissioner Giss isn't held accountable, and Chairman Mancuso isn't held accountable, and all those politicians aren't held accountable. After the students badgered business and legislative leaders to take this test, and 60% of them failed, I had the pleasure of having breakfast with a couple of prominent legislative leaders a couple mornings later. And I said, how'd you guys do on the test? Oh, God. I didn't do well at all. I didn't do well at all. And they admitted they had flunked the test. And I said, well, how do you account for that? And one of them said, hell, that was 30 years ago. I've forgotten all that stuff. And I said, duh. If it wasn't important for you to remember, why was it important for you to study in the first place? We assume that if we cram kids' heads full of stuff, whether they ever use it, whether they need it or anything else, we've done our job. Will they apply it? Will they ever use it? Will it make them better people? Will they be more constructive citizens and workers? That's beside the point, as long as we get the scores and the grades to move them on. So if we're going to hold people accountable, let's hold people accountable who have responsibility for making the system work. The obligation of the public schools is to educate all kids, not just the middle-class white people from the suburbs, not just kids who are motivated and want to go to college, but all kids, even kids who don't want to go to college. It's our obligation to educate. And if we don't do it, starting with the first day of school, and do it well for those first 6 years, we may as well forget it. To hold seniors accountable now, in their senior year, for things they have never been taught, I think is unconscionable.